Hey everyone, Matron here bringing you another Starcraft 2 commentary, this time Game 2 of the Best of 3 series between BratOK spawning as the Yellow Terran and WhiteRa spawning as the Red Protoss. So WhiteRa was able to take that first game on Jungle Basin, expanding quickly and a real good timing attack with those Colossi. Once he had a critical number, he was able to withstand the pressure from BratOK, the harassment with the Banshees, and BratOK just did not have enough of an army to take on the mass of Zealots, Stalkers, and Colossi that WhiteRa had. So we'll see if BratOK is able to even up this series, or if WhiteRa is going to win it 2-0 as we move to Xel'Naga Caverns. Xel'Naga Caverns, pretty much the opposite situation as Jungle Basin, where the natural is right outside your base, but it's quite difficult to defend as there are a lot of places where it can be attacked from, multiple paths in the center, destructible rocks which can be broken, as well as a backdoor path, and there are reeds here as well, high grass, so you can hide proxy barracks or proxy pylons back there and warp in units. So it's going to be quite difficult for either player to get up an expansion in the early going if the other player is trying any sort of harass or proxy play. See WhiteRa throwing down that first gateway, now just chrono boosting out some probes. Again, the opening pretty much similar for both players. BratOK doing a good job checking for proxies inside of his base before he moves out. These two scouts meeting each other, and now that the probe has moved into the base of BratOK, he's going to want to keep an eye on it this entire time, make sure it does not sneak out and set down a proxy pylon or anything. We do see a pylon going down in the southern part of WhiteRa's base. This is a very good position. He's going to be able to see any sort of dropships or Banshees which move along the right side of this map. We see BratOK moving into the base of WhiteRa, going to be seeing the 1 gas and the cybernetics core. For his part, just getting out a Marine that's going to shut down the scouting of this probe right here for WhiteRa, so going to have to retreat there, doing a good job not losing that probe. BratOK taking the tour of WhiteRa's base right now. And looks like we have a tech lab going down on this barracks after the first Marine, so you want to get that 1 Marine out there just to prevent any sort of scouting. And now a second barracks, no second gas yet, coming out for BratOK. This Marine might want to take a little bit of a walk, check for any sort of proxy buildings, or to see if it can find that probe. We see BratOK going to be taking down the shields, a little bit of that pylon. Now this chrono boosted Stalker coming out, so BratOK going to have to skedaddle with that SCV. He did lose a few SCVs in the early going of Game 1, put him behind just a little bit, and he does not want to repeat that mistake this time. So probe now chasing down that SCV. In the base of BratOK, we do see a Reaper coming out. It's going to be very good for scouting, since they did nerf the Reaper, making that speed upgrade only available after factory comes out, and also making it so you have to create a supply depot before the barracks. Reapers mostly just used as scouts right now, so BratOK coming to the side of the base. We see the first Stalker of WhiteRa moving out towards the southern portion of this map. A Marauder and a Marine could be meeting it here, and it looks like we have the probe moving into position, perhaps to throw up a pylon, and he's going to do just that. We see WhiteRa pushing in with that Stalker. The concussive shell has finished for BratOK, so he's going to be able to slow the Stalker. The Stalker stopping there. He does not want to retreat back to the direction of that pylon. Looks like WhiteRa getting up a 3rd and now 4th gateway, so he's going to be on 4 gates shortly. Maybe trying a 4 gate with this proxy pylon. Does have out 1 sentry at the moment, also working on a 2nd sentry. He's chrono boosting his warp gate, and that's going to be finished in time as well. He needs to get another few pylons up, give himself room under that side cap. So it looks like BratOK taking this tower. He does have 2 Marauders and a Marine. It's going to be very powerful against Stalkers. Again, those Marauders doing bonus damage to armored, a full 20 damage to those armored Stalkers. And now we see the Reaper does see these 4 warp gates, so BratOK pulling back. He knows that pressure may be coming shortly. He could have seen that cybernetics core finish up its research. Now maybe throwing down a bunker, we saw it there. And in comes WhiteRa with these first few Zealots. And they're going to try to take down the SCV here before it can throw up this bunker. I'm not sure they're going to be able to, as that SCV paths through their bunker at the last second. Now BratOK going to be moving out with his force here. 650 minerals compared to the 225, and checking all over the place for this pylon, finally going to be able to find it. And WhiteRa's going to have an aborted 4-gate here. That's not going to work. Instead, a second step he's going to be doing is throwing down this nexus. So he did not waste a lot of units warping in at that pylon. So he is going to be able to throw up this nexus, needs to get another pylon up and running. Looks like he's bringing a few as he is side-capped right now. And he also has a Twilight Council finishing. In BratOK's base, we do have both those bunkers now salvaged. Pretty OP for Terran. They are able to get the minerals back for those bunkers whenever they want. And now a reactor going down on this factory, a starport being finished as well, and another barracks being added to the mix. The starport going to be creating a medevac here, and with the reactor on the factory, we may be seeing some Hellion harass. A Marine on the right side here. Again, both players jostling for map control right now, and positioning around these towers and around the map. WhiteRa's Nexus has completed. He needs to get a transfer over here. If we look at the income tab, 31 harvesters to 27. BratOK landing his own command center, so he is going to be doing a transfer here of SCVs and should be ahead of the Protoss player. We finally see a transfer coming from WhiteRa, and now it looks like the starport landed on that reactor. So no Hellions coming from BratOK, instead going to be pumping out a lot of medevacs to try to support these Marines and Marauders. We do not have Stim yet complete. It's about to complete for BratOK. He has not completed the combat shields for the Marines, so not quite upgraded right now. He's just starting combat shields. So it needs to wait for this stim to be done. We do see charge coming out for WhiteRa, so something we did see in that first game, and it looks like we're going to have a majority of the units for WhiteRa being these zealots, combined with the sentries and the force fields, going to be able to push the zealots up against the Marines and Marauders with the force fields behind them, and they will not be able to retreat. So it's going to be very micro-intensive here, throwing down those force fields, and BratOK going to try to stop, or try to make sure that he is not held in by those force fields and he can continue to micro away from these charge lots. We do see a few High Templar coming out as well. So after that Twilight Council went down, we had a Templar Archives getting out those High Templar, even though they cannot use Storm yet. Storm is being researched, taking 110 units of time, perhaps chrono boosting that if he wants it to finish earlier. But getting out these High Templar early going to allow him to bank a bit of energy so that once the Storm does finish, he's going to have it immediately. Do see BratOK now moving out. If we check out the Army tab, 2200 compared to the 2025 for the Protoss player, and now going to be splitting up his forces here. There is a pylon, so he is going to be able to see this drop as it moves in, but BratOK going to be attacking multiple directions, dropping all these units. They're going to stim up, try to take down the reinforcing units of WhiteRa. WhiteRa doing his best with these charge lots to defend against this drop, even pulling a few probes off the line as well, but the stimmed up Marines going to try to focus down these zealots. Charge making that a lot more difficult, as it does also increase the leg speed of the zealots. BratOK did not move into the front of the base with that drop. We do see a feedback on that medevac, but it did not have a lot of energy. You really need to get those feedbacks off at the start of the fight. Once the medevac has been healing for a while, it's not going to have enough energy to do any significant damage. So BratOK not doing too much damage there with that drop, and now WhiteRa pushing out, hoping to end the game right here and end the series as well. He does have Psystorm finished, and he does have a number of Templar. So 4 Templar on the field. They're all going to be able to do at least 1 Psystorm, one of them almost able to do 2. He is also getting the Amulet research, 60 more units of time. You see a Marine, his life's going to be over quite quickly here, and now BratOK is going to have to pull back to defend against this push. We see he's got a lot of units moving along the outside here in this backdoor path. So now we see bunkers being thrown up at the front of BratOK's base, also preparing a 3rd command center. So hoping to defend against this push. He does have ghosts out, so if they can get good EMPs, oh no, but feedback's going down on those ghosts before they can do anything to the Protoss army. Now the charge lots moving in here, actually pulling back instead. We did have the units for BratOK were stimmed up there, so going to have to get a little bit of healing done by these medevacs, and BratOK going to have a drop in the back of WhiteRa's base. So WhiteRa sort of pulling back from the Terran's base, and now going to have to pull back altogether. But no, it looks like he's going to push out, and get into a bit of a base race situation, perhaps use some of his warp gate cooldowns in his base. We just see storms going down on a number of Marines. They're taking them down quite quickly. We see Archons being warped in off of these Templar once they do have the Psy Storm complete, and more Archons coming in. Storms going down on those SCVs as well, taking down a number of them. In the meanwhile, back in the natural of WhiteRa, looks like he's taken a lot of damage, getting up a number of Storms and Zealots, trying to take down the last few units. But BratOK doing a lot of damage with the Marines. Just those 8 Marines able to be so effective as WhiteRa's army was out of position. If we check out the army tab, it's now 1900 for BratOK compared to the 350 of WhiteRa. Taking this medevac with a few Marines back into the mineral lines of WhiteRa. If we check out the income tab, 49 harvesters to 42. WhiteRa was trying to hide all those probes, now pulling them off. Needs to get his 2 bases up and saturated again, but having to wait for more units to come in and take on these 2 Marines. BratOK getting up his own 3rd here on the gold, so his income will soon skyrocket compared to WhiteRa, especially with all the harassment he's been able to do with this medevac and the Marines. Do have pylons going down on both these towers for WhiteRa, so he could quickly control these 2 towers if he so chooses. A Marine well positioned by BratOK going to be able to see any sort of movement by the Protoss army, but at this point WhiteRa just having to lick his wounds a little bit and really macro up more of an army, as this Marine will see these units. 3100 army compared to the 700 for the Protoss player. So WhiteRa quickly warping in more and more to these charge lots. Combined with the charge lots, the High Templar are going to be very powerful, but BratOK is able to get up a number of medevacs here, also taking down this pylon, and he's got 7 medevacs for all these Marines. Going to stim up quickly, try to take down the remaining units of WhiteRa. A great EMP there, taking down all of the energy for those High Templar. And WhiteRa knows that he's not going to be able to take on this force with just the little army he does have. So GGing here in this second game, and BratOK is going to be able to take it and force a game 3. So we saw a little bit of drop action from BratOK. Did not do too much damage in the early going, but when WhiteRa pushed out to try to attack the natural of BratOK, he dropped in the natural of WhiteRa, and he was able to take down a lot of those probes and really press in on his opponent. He was able to defend his own base there. I'm not even sure with all those charge lots and the Templar how he was able to do it. Getting good feedbacks was WhiteRa on those ghosts as well in the attack on the natural, but BratOK was able to defend against that and then just macro up a lot faster than his opponent. And as he's pushing across the field here, getting a good EMP on WhiteRa, and the Protoss player giving the GG, hoping to move on to game 3 here and take that one down to win the series. But BratOK's got momentum on his side, winning this game 2, and looking forward to game 3 as well, I'm sure. I'll go ahead and cast that now. So thanks for watching this one, and I'll see you there.